Greetings, Neuse Little Pod listeners. This is your host, Matt Gore, reminding you to please like, follow, subscribe, and share the podcast on your available podcast apps such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and any other podcast app you can think of. Share our episodes on Facebook and let us know what you think with a comment or review. Now, please enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to Neuse Little Podcast, an audio program discussing the almost 50-year history of Neuse Little Theater and the backstage antics and stories that come along with running a community theater in a small town. I'm your host, Matt Gore, and we are coming to you from NLT's stage and base of operations, the little log cabin located on the banks of the Neuse River in Smithfield, North Carolina. We lovingly refer to it as the Hut. Welcome, folks, for another episode of Neuse Little Podcast. We have here tonight, for the first time ever, a repeat guest. Yes, we have someone who's, this is their second time on the show, and we're very excited to have them back, and they're here in kind of a different capacity to talk about another theater as we continue our series of Outside Perspectives, another theater in our area, and that is, what's the official name there?
Wilson Arts is formerly known as the Arts Council of Wilson, but we also run the Edna Boykin Cultural Center, which has a 650-seat theater inside of it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I guess at this point I should introduce Shaun Braswell to the podcast.
Hey.
Welcome back, Shaun. So, as I said before, we're talking about Wilson this week in our series of Outside Perspectives, and we might do one more of these Outside Perspectives. We might not. I'm not sure yet. But this will be our third episode in that series while our stage is dark here. So, talking about Wilson today. So, tell us all about Wilson, Shaun. What do you do there, and what are they all about?
Okay, well, I am the theater arts coordinator for Wilson Arts. When I first went there, we were the Arts Council of Wilson. They have like I said, a 650-seat theater, which used to be the Wilson Theater. It is 102 years old this year. It started out as an opera house in Vaudeville Theater in 1919. Ava Gardner had some film releases that first premiered there. So it's had a very, very historic history. And I'm kind of ashamed that I'm from Johnston County, right next door, and I never really knew about this space, being in theater. They have the Act for Youth program that we do 3 shows a year with 5-year-old to 18-year-olds or graduating from high school. We do 3 big name shows. This year we're doing the SpongeBob musical, Oliver, and A Midsummer Night's Dream. The Playhouse of Wilson also performs their shows inside the Boykin Center. They also do 3 shows throughout the year. We just opened up the new Wilson Arts Center, which is a 22,000 square feet art gallery, and we have 3 studios which also double as rehearsal space. So in the early ages of the Boykin Theater, like I said, it was an opera house in Vaudeville Theater and a movie theater. And then a private industry took over the theater. And from the 60s until basically the mid-80s, it showed the type of films that most younger people cannot watch. You know, the type with the 3 X's above them. And then in the mid-80s, the city bought the building back, renovated it, and turned it into a very nice theater space. So they do a lot of creative stuff in that space.
Hosed it down real good.
Yeah, they really did hose it down real good. Side note, when they did open up the building to renovate it, they went downstairs in the green room, which is under the stage, and found out they were using that as a production studio. So they were making their own films.
Interesting.
And then showing them upstairs.
It's good to know that the adult entertainment industry was alive and well in Wilson during the 1980s.
Yeah. So they even when you walk into the lobby, they have a little 4 pictures that kind of tell the history of the theater, and they actually tell about and from the 60s to 70s, it was an adult movie theater, and then they move on to the next picture.
Yeah.
Let's just go on and move past that little.
There's not a comprehensive
Yeah.
commemoration of the time it was an adult
Right.
entertainment theater.
And there's still people in the community that come down. It's like, yeah, I used to come watch movies here, and we're like, yeah, I bet you did. So, but it's a very unique space. We've had several film companies come and actually try to film movies in there, like, because it gives you the old style vaudeville type theater. It really represents what that is.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's got the really cool proscenium, the old,
Yeah.
really
Ornate.
Ornate, that's the word.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you guys are. You said it sounds like you do a bunch of theater. It sounds like this building is in use much of the year.
It is. Like I said, the Playhouse of Wilson does their shows there. Act for Youth, we do our shows there. Visions Theater, which is a newer group, which is a more diverse, traditionally black theater group, have started doing shows in there, and we're really trying to support them and getting them their foot, get a good foundation for themselves. It's definitely needed. Wilson's a very diverse community. With everybody trying to be more diverse now, we feel like we were already there. In our Act for Youth program, we have all different types of ethnicities and religions, and they all just come together, and they just want to do good theater together and make friendships and build bonds, and it's never been about race there. And I know in that community itself, there's probably some race issues, but within the theater community in Wilson, it is getting very diverse.
Well, that's good.
Of course, it could be more diverse, as everything can be, but they have a very good head start, contrary to what most other communities have.
Yeah, that's something that that every community theater needs to look at and try to see how their seasons can be more diverse. And their casting choices could be more diverse.
Correct,
For sure.
yeah.
It's something everybody needs to pay attention to. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I said, we're doing the SpongeBob musical coming up, and me and the director, Seth Penwell, is directing that show. And we've had several discussions, and how we were going to cast is like whoever's best for the part.
Right.
A female can be SpongeBob, or it does not matter. Whoever we think is going to be best for the part is going to be that part, and it won't matter about race or gender or anything else. Whoever's best for it's going to get it.
Well, tell me about. Is SpongeBob your first show of the season officially?
Yes, that will be our first show. Like I said, we did 3 shows, one in the fall, and SpongeBob the Musical is that one. And then we move on in January, in February. We did this show 2 weekends. We'll be doing Oliver this year. It's funny, we had our season planned out before COVID hit, and all through COVID, we thought, okay, we have all these shows we're doing, and we're just going to move them a year later. But as COVID went through, and as we were actually doing some other theater throughout COVID, which we were one of the few places actually able to do that, our season ended up just naturally kind of changing. So what we thought was our season, which was going to be Bring It On, Annie, and Alice in Wonderland, ended up being, we did Alice in Wonderland this spring because things opened up and we could do it. So we went ahead and did Alice in Wonderland. But we didn't have the same people we thought we could pull Bring It On off with.
Right.
So we decided to change that show to SpongeBob. And then through some technicalities, we couldn't do Annie. So we went to Oliver. So what we thought was set at the last minute ended up just flipping upside down and changing completely. And I think it's a stronger season with SpongeBob, Oliver, and A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah. Now, in what capacity, and what is your job? Tell us more about your actual occupation at the Wilson Arts Council or the Wilson Arts.
My official title is I'm the Theater Arts Coordinator.
Okay.
So I handle all the performing arts side of Wilson Arts. And Wilson Arts is typically a visual arts group. So I'm like the black sheep of the family. So I handle all the stuff at the Boykin Center, rentals, the Act for Youth program. I choose the shows, I choose the directors, choreographers, music directors. We normally one of the shows per year will have a live orchestra. I help get all the orchestra members together. I also help anything the visual arts side needs with setting up for gallery events or receptions, or with our new space that just opened up May 5th, we're now doing wedding receptions and business meetings and other things in that space. So I kind of help coordinate and set up for those things. We have an amazing staff there, so everybody's like a community theater, still jumps in and helps out each other, and it's a great place to work at. I love the people there. So yeah, it's when I worked at Johnson Community College for years, and I did rental events. So it was dance recitals and national tours of people coming in, bands and B.J. Thomas and Ronnie Millsap and those types of artists. And then I would come volunteer at Neuse Little Theater to do shows. But in Wilson, it's kind of like I'm getting paid to do what I was doing at the college and the volunteer stuff I do in Neuse Little Theater in one place. So it was like a dream job.
Yeah.
And I've worked for ARPA Entertainment, located here in Smithfield, for years, doing sound for festivals and all other kinds of things sound's needed at. And we were doing Friday on the Lawns in Wilson that they do every summer. The first Friday of every month, they do a concert in front of the library. And if it rains out, they moved it inside the Boykin Center. And so it got rained out, we moved inside the Boykin Center, and Mr. Bob, who I was talking about earlier, told me, yeah, they had this position they just opened up, and they're looking for somebody to blah, blah, blah. And I went and looked, and I was like, wait, this is what I've always wanted to do my entire life. I'm going to apply. And luckily enough, I got it. So.
Well, it sounds like you have a great deal of responsibility over there, but it also sounds like you're in a corner of actually doing what you like. You know, I'm sure it's not all peaches and cream, but it does sound like you get a good chance to work with people and also have a say in the creative side of things at the Wilson Arts.
Yeah, I mean, I do have the overall decision on which shows we do, but we have a committee with the Act for Youth that actually helps choose shows and pick shows and kind of push me towards what we're going to do. And I'm normally going to go with what the group decides.
Right.
But I do have the overall decision on what we do, which is kind of freaky and crazy and nervous at the same time, because like, what if I make the wrong decision? Or so it's very kind of nerve-wracking, but I have a very good support group there that once I make the decision, I feel like the decision's already been made, so it's not that hard.
Right.
But I tell my kids there all the time, I was like, if the show goes great, that's because of what you did. If it goes bad, it's because of what I did.
Well, that's
and
big
that's
of you.
the theory of it. So it is that. I mean, if I'm not training them or trying to teach them in the correct way, that's on me, not on them.
Right.
And the kids there, like kids in most places, given the opportunity and given the challenge, they normally will step up to it and knock it out of the ballpark. I have some amazing kids now. We're starting a summer camps this year, and we're doing Magic Treehouse. Pirates Past Noon is one of them. The other one is Disney's Descendants. And before I got there, they would hire a director for the camp. And then they were bringing Act for Youth kids to basically babysit the campers. So when the director wasn't working with somebody, these high school kids would just hang out with the other kids. And I was like, I think younger kids learn better from people closer to their age. So I changed it up. Now I have the Act for Youth kids as the production staff. We have a director, a music director, a choreographer, a technical director. They're doing those jobs, and I'm the babysitter. Like I'm gonna make sure you're all safe, but you need the opportunity to work on this other side of the stage instead of just being on the stage. Won't you try directing and see how it works and everything? And once that happened, these kids are doing just amazing stuff. We start Magic Treehouse on Monday. They rehearse for 5 days. We do a show Friday night. And the counselors, is what I call them, are already having meetings about it, and they've got their set built, and they got costumes going along, and it's just like, I'm ready to get started because everything's done.
Yeah.
It's just, we got to have the kids here to do it. So given the challenge, these kids really step up and make great things happen.
Well, it sounds like you got a great support network there, too.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of dedicated people. It's going to take hands to bring all that together. So you said you have pretty much, you go along usually with what the committee says, but knowing you, I bet you have some idea of some shows you'd like to do there eventually. What are some shows there that one day you'd eventually like to tackle that could realistically play there?
I'm top of the ball. This is the one I definitely want to have happen. We typically try not to do school editions or junior shows for our Act for Youth shows, but there's one exception I'm willing to make, and that's Les Mis, the school edition.
Okay.
Because it's the perfect venue for it. The kids can handle it. I mean, it's just like, yes, the school edition, which takes a couple of the songs out that, yeah, probably questionable for school kids to do.
Right.
But other than that, it's the same story. So that's kind of my dream show there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, I'm hearing mostly musicals in your repertoire here.
We typically do 2 musicals a year and 1 non-musical.
Okay, and that's your Midsummer Night's Dream.
That's my Midsummer Night's Dream this
Right,
year.
right. How did you arrive at that? Other than you don't have to pay royalties for Shakespeare.
Yeah, well, once we did SpongeBob, and we were having an orchestra for that, and the royalties were a little pricey for that, and for Oliver. Mm-hmm. We're like, okay, we need something cheaper for the spring. Well, that means Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So, and they've not done a lot of Shakespeare there.
Gotcha.
So, we've already started planning for that one. We've already kind of got our set idea in plan. So, the set idea for our Midsummer Night's Dream will be the Whirligigs, which is very prominent in Wilson, the Whirligig Park. So, I have to give Tony credit for that. When we did Midsummer Night's Dream here, he used the Tobacco Barns, which kind of Johnson County, that's kind of our natural state here and everything. And I felt an attachment to that as the set.
Yeah.
For when we did it here. And I didn't want to steal that idea for there, because Wilson's also a tobacco community. They got the Wilson Tobbs, which is the baseball team named after tobacco. But I was like, but I can't do the same thing.
Right.
What in Wilson says Midsummer Night's Dream and is different and Whirligig?
Yeah.
So,
Right, and the Whirligig Park is very Wilson. I mean,
very Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And in my mind, as staging it, I would think of the original Whirligig Park, a.k.a. Acid Park, a.k.a. the Reflectors, or however you knew it when it was out in the country. That's how I see it set as, in that area. But still doing it at the Whirligig Park, or doing Whirligigs on the actual stage.
Right.
Yeah, and it gives you enough of a otherworldly, mystical type setting.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly sounds like Wilson has like a very interesting season coming up, and we certainly look forward to seeing how that goes. And tell us when SpongeBob is going up, sir.
SpongeBob will be October 15th, 16th, and I'm going to make sure I got this right. Yes, 15th, 16th, and 17th of October.
Well, we'll break a leg with that, sir.
Thanks, sir.
And
I do have to also mention, we have a summer musical coming up that I haven't talked about tonight.
okay.
Every year we do, Act for Youth is all minors, but we do a summer musical which is adults and kids, and we're doing Cinderella this year, the 1957 version, so the old traditional Cinderella, not the RLT version that our friend Gregory Hill was in.
Yeah.
So we're doing the traditional
Rodgers
version.
and Hammerstein.
Rodgers and Hammerstein, 1957, and that goes on July 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th.
Well, break a leg with that. And if I hear correctly, it has 2 of our favorite NLT alums, Mr. David Hawk and Gabby Hawk. Break a leg.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. Yeah.
Yep.
Gabby's part of the Magic,
Interesting.
which is part of the dance. It's basically the dance ensemble, but it's a small group, but they do all the magic in the show.
Is David in it, or is he just a child wrangler?
No, he's in it. He's the guard, which I guess this is child wrangler, but
Okay.
Gabby, chauffeur. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to that for sure. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with Shaun here.
And a special guest.
And yes, there is a special guest coming back. There was this old man with a guitar walking down the street. And I'm just like, he looks interesting. Let's have him on the podcast. So we're going to introduce the special guest when we get back. But thank you, Shaun, for telling us about Wilson's new season. It sounds like a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, gang, just want to take a second of your time here to give a shout out to our friend of the show, Cody Walker, who composed and performed our theme here that you hear every time you listen to an episode of Neuse Little Podcast. He has an album out, and it's called Demography, and it is available exclusively on Spotify. So if you are a subscriber to the podcast and use it on Spotify, why don't you type in Demography and give that album a check out? Because Cody was kind enough to do our music for free, and we want to help him in any way we can because he is a very talented artist, and he is also from the Smithfield, North Carolina area. He is a graduate of West Johnson High School, so this is a local guy. So give it a listen. It's kind of like a John Denver, easy listening, man with a guitar on a stool just performing good songs. Check it out. And we're back. Okay, so I've been waiting to get this person on the podcast, and if everything worked out correctly, he would have been like our 7th or 8th guest on the podcast. But this is when we could get him in here, and we're proud to have him in here now and in the studio here on a separate mic. We have Greg Hill. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man?
All right, we're gonna do your episode proper later. But right now, we're just going to gab about theater stuff. We're just going to use this last half of the podcast to tell stories we want to tell, and it'll be a looser format than our regular podcast. So you guys were talking about Mamma Mia, and we talked about Mamma Mia a fair bit on the show. I think the chronicles of Mamma Mia have been covered, but it is worth mentioning again from Greg's perspective because he played one of the 3 dads. So tell us your perspective on that whole Mamma Mia. Just give us that whole perspective, Greg.
Wow. For starters, I mean
that's an open-ended question.
Yeah, I mean, you work really hard and you get through these shows and you get so close to the end, and then something crazy happens, and then you're like, oh my goodness, this can actually stop the production. We put a lot of work into all this. And, of course, I'm speaking in regards to Rick, and for me, it was just kind of crazy because 3 days before the show opened, we're running down to Wilson, me and Darren, going to see Shaun.
Yeah.
Rehearsing all day long, walking through the streets, through the whirligig part.
Because Shaun stepped in at the last minute, Rick's down with his surgery, and now Shaun has to come in with like a week to go. So you're down there, you're rehearsing.
2 days.
2 days?
2 days?
Yeah. I rehearsed, I came Tuesday night, Wednesday night, preview audience on Thursday.
Preview audience. All right, I was counting
So Wednesday
that, yeah.
is when you guys came to Wilson.
So, yeah, it was...
And we did. We walked down the streets. We
in the buildings, out the building, Whirligig Park.
There's an alleyway that has a random piano in it,
Yes.
and Greg went and started playing the piano, and a guy came up and started chatting with him about it, and it was just a fun little adventure through Wilson, rehearsing for Mamma Mia.
Yeah, but we just drilled those lines. I knew at that point. I've seen shows get close to that point, and then there's jeopardy within sight, and you're like, oh my goodness. And when these kind of things happen, what people don't understand, what Shaun had to do was cram 6 weeks of information in his head. And you don't know how he's going to pull it off. And the only thing you need to do is work and work and work and work, because that was the only way we were going to get it done. We're on the porch between the shows. The shows are already running. It's like, Greg, let's go over the lines again.
Yeah. We were literally rehearsing lines for the next scene right before we came on, and I remember being behind the audience in the theater because we make our first entrance from behind the audience, and first night, so we're lined up. Basically, we're in the men's restroom. Yep. And where the water fountain is, waiting to come on, and I'm like, okay, where do I go first? So where am I going? Where am I supposed to go next? So it was actually a great experience to have the cast. Yes, they had 6 weeks of it, so everybody else knew what they were doing. There was a lot of pushing me where I was supposed to go on stage. From people I've never met before. Like, Mamma Mia had such a new cast, which was great for Neuse Little Theater. Younger people, people I'd never met before, they never met me before, and we didn't know how we were going to interact. But I can remember these younger kids pushing me, like, go that way. I'm like, okay, if they push me that way, apparently that's the way I'm supposed to go. So it was a great cast to be able to jump into. They were so well in tune with each other, so it wasn't hard to follow along with what everybody else was doing. So it's definitely a fun show to do, but Neuse Little Theater was definitely lucky to get it early on in the releasing of it.
And you know, and we let the cast know that, you know, we told them, I said, you know, you're going to be one of the first people in this. You can always say, we did that show first within our area.
Right.
Well, I had a moment in the actual performance of the show. Logan, is that who played the daughter?
The daughter, yep, Logan.
Yeah. There's a scene there that her and I are on stage, and she's singing a song to me, and it was really I have no idea who you are. It was like the father is, like, I just came into your life, and all of a sudden I got a daughter.
I never even thought about that.
And just being here for 2 nights, and all of a sudden she is singing with such passion to me, and I'm like, I got teary-eyed on stage. It's like, I don't even know who you are, but if you're my daughter, you know, oh my God. But it was definitely a unique experience of how well that cast was so melded together.
Very bonded.
Yeah.
Very bonded.
And I had said before,
and that's so
I
important for a show.
hated that Rick didn't get to do that.
And I am too, you know.
Because all that he's put into this theater beforehand, before Mamma Mia, and then this was his opportunity, and for his appendix to say, no, Shaun's going to do this part now. I hated it for him. He would have been so great in this.
Now, Greg, you come from a musical background. I've said it before on the podcast. Our listeners should know that you're a very talented person, both off stage and on. We first met on 1940s Christmas Carol.
40s Christmas.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we've chatted about this, and you can be totally open and honest. It's okay. What was your first impression that night that we were first working together on 40s Christmas Carol? Because I remember coming in, I was like, who's this guy? And because of that and of my naturally competitive nature, you know what I mean? So what was it like from your perspective?
Well, for me, I think it's going to be totally different than what maybe somebody expects, because I was coming from a background that was a little different.
You're a professional, Greg. Go ahead.
Yeah, I
and
know. I was in a very not happy place in life.
Uh-huh.
I had recently got out of the military. It'd been a few years. And I had done theater a lot when I was a child, since I was about 7 years old, 8 years old. And I did it up till I was 12, and there was something happened in life, and it kind of changed course. Mm-hmm. And then I started around 15, started doing it again, and did it into my 20s, and then I left for the military. So I guess when I'm explaining all that is that, you know, it's been a part of my life. It's part of my childhood. It's part of my building blocks when I was a child, you know, that wet little sponge, you know, taking in ABCs. Well, I was on stage taking directions from people all the time. So for me, it's just really, it's part of me. And I knew I wanted to get back to it, but I didn't know what to expect.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't, like I said, I was just not happy, that's all. And it was just really, oh man. It was a blessing. Okay, that's what it was. It helped me realign everything, the important things in my life. It made me feel good. And at first, you know, I didn't know. I was still in that mindset of go, do this, do it right, don't, you know, and just relax and sit back. Just sit down and that's what this place has been doing for me. So kind of went in a different direction, I think. I don't know.
No, that was beautiful. And I could say that 10 years earlier, I could say the exact same thing. I was not in a good place when I walked through these doors in 2007. Not in a good mindset. Didn't like who I was. And now, 10, 12 years, I genuinely like the person I am. And Neuse Little Theater has a huge part in that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Even I started, and I got into theater in Garner in middle school and did a show in high school, and I was like, ooh, theater's my thing, I want to do it. And we were moving back to Johnston County, and it was the story of, well, I don't want to go to Johnston County. There's no theater in Johnston County. I want to do it in Wake County where there's theater and art and stuff. And a friend of mine said, there's Neuse Little Theater. So me and him came out and actually looked through the windows like, is there a theater in there? Really? It's a log cabin. Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that was 1993, and it changed my life. It's
just a wonderful place, and everybody here cares. That's what's so important.
Yeah.
You gotta be around people that care. If you're around people that don't care, they're rubbing off on you. Get away from them.
Yeah.
Right.
But let me tell you, you said coming here. I found the place because my daughter wanted to go for a ride one night, driving down the road. And we've not been here that long. And I saw the little theater. I said, oh, look, there's a little theater. And there was people walking in. I said, you want to go see a show? She's like, she was little, 4 years old maybe. She's like, yeah. She's thinking a movie.
Uh-huh.
So we come in and we sit down and she's looking around. And then here come the people, you know? And she goes, Dad, they're real people. And I was like, yeah, it's just this theater. So she was asking me about it, and it kind of pushed me to talk to her. You know, I was like, well, Dad used to do this, you know. And I was telling her, she goes, what? And I said, yeah, I'll do it sometime. And I auditioned for a show before that. I actually got cast.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say what show it was
Right.
because that's respectful of the person who played the part. But for 40's Christmas Carol, I was glad that, what is her name? I can't think of it. Abigail.
Abigail Jordan?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was a lifesaver for me there.
Oh, really?
Her and I played off of one another, and she knew that, just let him go, you know.
I totally agree. Abigail Jordan is a wonderful scene partner in any production, and she's a warm and caring person both on and off stage. She's a credit to any production, her and her father. And even if I don't agree with every single thing Randy says, I still think I still think he is an asset to any production.
I agree with that, and even if he doesn't agree with everything I do.
And Randy was in 40's Christmas Carol also.
He gave a wonderful performance, and
It's a great family.
yeah, it is. They do great theater. They do. She just got done doing Steel Magnolias in
Done, right?
Done. Yes,
Yeah.
and Done.
Well, the question was, you asked me, what'd you think of me?
What? Yeah.
Okay, so now that just popped in my head. All right,
I
so-
thought that, dang it, this guy's here. I'm never getting a part again.
No.
That was my first thought of you, Greg. Thank you.
So, before you were doing a production of something else somewhere else, I believe, at the time.
Probably. Yeah. Probably. I can't remember what it was, but
Because-
yeah, I probably came in like with a week or two in.
That's right. And Ruth had said, here, I want you to learn this song. I said, oh, okay. And I was excited. I was like, man, I get to sing because I love music. Sometimes I don't know if I'm an actor or I'm a singer.
You're both. You do both incredibly well.
And so I went home and I learned that song. I can't remember what song it was.
Okay.
She let me do the opera part because, it was like, okay, well, let's give him that one. So I went home and learned the song. And I was like, I come back the next day and I was ready, and here come Matt. And she goes, she goes, that's right, he has to do this song because it leads into this. And so, I can't remember what song. I wish I had the script with me. But I was like, that son of a bitch. I ain't gonna lie, because I worked hard. I was so happy I went home. But I'm still so glad I did that show.
Now, this is an outside NLT thing. This happened a year and change. Actually, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary, aren't we?
2 years.
Yeah.
I hope they do this because I will be there and not participating. I will be a sponsor for obvious reasons. But let's talk about.
It seems like it was so long ago.
It
and
does.
It really wasn't.
was.
It was right at the early stages of the pandemic.
It was
Oh my God.
No, it
the
was
summer.
no.
It was the summer before the pandemic.
Summer
Oh.
before.
2018.
July 2019, right?
Yeah,
July
yeah.
2019.
July.
Yes.
Yep.
And so talk about, what is it called? The River Rat Regalia
The river
Boat Rat?
Regatta.
Regatta.
So basically everybody builds their own boat and there's certain parameters you have to
It has to be built out of cardboard.
uh-huh.
All cardboard.
All cardboard. No wood can frame it together or anything. It can't be wax cardboard. It has to be
Nope.
like true cardboard. But you can paint it.
You can paint it.
And Greg wanted to do it, and he wanted me on board.
Now here's the thing about Greg. Once he gets an idea in his head to do
Son of a
something,
gun.
he will produce something amazing.
Yes. So he's
And-
like, I had to give him all the credit. The only thing I did was show up and get in the boat because I trust him enough. But
Greg's like, I need someone else that's under 125
he
pounds.
designed it, he built it, and it was truly a aircraft carrier.
Launching airplanes off of it.
We launched airplanes off of it.
Space
had
shuttle.
had the tower. Had the what is it called? The
Oh, it's called the Island.
island. Yes,
And what was the name of the boat?
The JCS Darius Rose.
Right.
named after the patriarch of Neuse Little Theater.
And JCS so you can't name it the United States Navy.
USN.
USN. I had to think about it. If I wasn't in the Navy, I was in the Air Force.
I wasn't in military at all, but I knew that.
Well, them guys, they do their own
I
thing.
watched the History Channel.
So you can't name a boat U.S. Navy. You know, technically you can't do that. So I was like, man, I said, you know what, we could. We can JCS, Johnston County Ship, Darius Rose. But the idea came from years ago when I was in the military. I was out in Australia. And they have the beer boat regatta. And I just happened to be there when they were doing it. I was like, I've got to do this. I've got to do it. I said, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So when we get to Smithfield, I'd heard about it. We were doing a show, and Mita said something. I said, oh, when was that? She goes, oh, it was last weekend. I said, well, let me know.
You probably started in like September, October, when the River Regatta is in July.
Well, Mita,
Yeah.
Mita told me about it, and I was super excited, and it was all because of that trip is what happened. So I was like, man, what can I build? What can I build? And I'm a very go big or go home, you know, and I was like, I want to build an aircraft carrier. And what I used to do when I was 18, I was a welder, me and my brother. We built ships. So I knew the general construction of ships, center lines and bulkheads and inner bottoms and brackets, braces, and everything across the whole spectrum. So I made a ship out of cardboard. Thanks to Lowe's, they gave me 2 4-foot by 8-foot junk pieces, and that was the skin of the aircraft carrier. I cut pieces out of all kind of stuff, but I mean, it was rigid. I mean, you could, and it was
It was an
14,
aircraft carrier.
14 feet long.
Yeah.
We
was.
sat side by side and had plenty of space.
Yeah.
We had explosives
So
wired up in it.
to the event, yeah, and also you had like a solar-powered little antenna on
A
top.
little solar-powered antenna, so the antenna
That was the kicker.
We
People,
had, we had the balsam wood airplanes with rubber bands that we were shooting off the flight deck.
Yep.
Smoke bombs in it. So the plan was there's an award for the best sinking. So the thought was we were going to fly our planes off, send the smoke bombs off, scuttle the ship like we sank for the best sinking. But we were the only ones, and we
No,
didn't. And
yeah, what happened?
So he did such a great job with the boat. It was very seaworthy. And so we did the smoke bombs, and they were going off, and we flew all the planes off of it, and we went past the bridge where the race was supposed to happen, and was like, you know what? It's going pretty well. Let's just keep on going.
And we went on down the river.
We went past the bend. If you stand on the bridge here next to the theater, you can see there's a bend where the river goes out of view. We went all the way past that on this boat. I think it's even a regret to this day that we did scuttle the ship.
I'll go ahead and fess up to that now.
Okay.
So I had cannon fuse wired through the whole thing with Ilmates or Ilmates, I don't know what they call them anymore.
So it was her maiden voyage was always going to be her last.
Yes, yes. And,
We were
you know,
going for the best thinking.
Yep. I was going to bring the violin. Once they canceled it, because it got canceled.
Yeah,
We went ahead and went. We was like,
I keep trying to get like the event was
The
canceled
event was canceled.
yes.
because
So
of
we did-
weather.
yeah, we did this on our own.
Yeah, we just went down
What was
our
it,
own.
Mita?
Well,
The river was too high. It was flooded. And so the river was too high. So they didn't feel safe putting particularly kids and things out on the river.
Because there
So
was an
they-
adult section and a kid section.
well, the event was like at 2:00 in the afternoon or something,
Yeah.
but they canceled it at like 12.
We had rain for days.
So there were people at the river expecting to watch this thing happen because they didn't
Well-
get the word that it got canceled.
And then what was it? They canceled it and they postponed it for a month or something. They postponed it for a while, and because I remember Greg was saying he needed to get the boat out of his garage. And whatever the day was they were going to do it, they ended up canceling it again, and you guys went, screw it, we're putting it in the water.
They're doing it.
Well, we were here waiting because they hadn't said they were going to cancel.
Yeah, I
it.
remember riding with you the day of, and you weren't sure because this was a rescheduled date, and it was also the river was still high.
Yep.
And I was riding with you, and we got there, and the guy who put together the event was very impressed by your boat, but regrettably, it was canceled again.
But we still put it in.
Yep.
Yeah, and you had about I don't know 25 to 35 people out there watching, maybe a little bit more.
There was,
Oh, it was
there was,
more than
there was
that.
more than that. There was people. There was probably 50 at the jug.
Yeah.
Sitting on the deck watching.
There was
Plus you had
people
people
up
on
on the
the bridge, people on the bank.
All down
there
the
were,
banks.
There were a lot more people watching it than
I was following
you
along with your
thought.
daughters, Greg, and I remember you got stuck under the bridge for a little while, or it just took you a minute to get under the bridge.
No, it was
We-
the boat was so well maneuverable. We actually could paddle and go back up river and
The original plan by whoever put that event together was you were to stop at the bridge. They were going to have a dump truck there, and you'd throw your boat away.
Uh-huh.
And we had got to that point. I was like, oh, I'll go get my truck, and we'll just load it up. But we got to looking, and I said, you want to go back out? And he was like, yeah, let's go. So we just jumped back in and took off. Yeah, so
our
we went on down the river.
Oh, some of our planes that we flew off. You got all those balsam wood planes with the rubber bands, everything
little
else.
rubber band airplanes.
And they flew okay, but oddly enough, the one that flew the best was the space shuttle.
The space shuttle.
which should not have.
Yep.
been the
Well, I
one
had a
that flew the best.
slingshot takeoff for that one.
Yeah.
And
And
then-
it flew up and shoo, it went up in the air. It was
And
great.
I don't know what happened to those airplanes that day because I tested and tested and tested them things at home, and I had them coming off the deck every single. We had one maybe almost start, and then it hit the water and boom. But yeah, because it almost went up on the bridge. I think
it
didn't
got up some height.
Mita got a really good picture of it actually coming up off of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ended up going down the river, and we found a little cutoff, and it was flooded. So I
The
was
water
like,
was high, so we could go in this little gully
Yep.
or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
And remind you, I put the M80s and the fireworks are going off and blowing holes in the side of it. We're taking on water, and but I put watertight bulkheads in there, so the water had a lot to go through. And it was thick cardboard. It was that
Corrugated.
no, it was the ones that the watermelons in at Food Lion.
Okay.
Because that's where I was getting that cardboard. They were giving me all their leftover cardboard.
The irony.
And but we sank back there.
So next year, when they do it again,
Mm-hmm.
Greg is building a entire battle fleet. We got battleships, cruisers, submarine.
Well, there was
and
we
carrier.
were supposed to have a submarine with this one. I
Yeah.
had a little PVC pipe painted yellow. It was going to be the yellow submarine. I put some lead weights in the end to hold it down. It was going to just drag behind us like he was targeting us.
So next year.
All right, I'm gonna stop it right there.
You mean put a pin in it?
Is that my
It is your
catchphrase?
I think it is your tagline. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to mention we have our first in our new art center in Wilson, the National Multimedia Juried Art Show. So artists can submit their $25 entry fee and 3 works of art for consideration. There's a $500 cash prize for whatever shows on first, $250 for second, $100 for third, and the exhibit opens September the 2nd. The deadline is July 22nd at 11:59 Mountain Standard Time.
Oh, good. I was worried it was specific. I'd be screwed. And thank you, Greg and Shaun, for coming down and sharing your stories. Last half of this one was a little bit more casual, on the casual side. So it's a little podcast is an ever-evolving format. So tell us if you like it. All right. We'll see you later. Credits for the show. Your host and creator is Matt Gore. That's me. My producer and editor is Mita Toole.
That's me.
Music is by Cody Walker. Please go look up Cody on Cody Walker Music on YouTube, and he's also on Cody Walker Music on Facebook as well. He's local, so and he's got a couple of albums out. Easy listening, John Denver type of guitar voice, that Cody Walker. All right, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye.